Alright, a little Demolition Man 2000 update here. Started tearing down the playfield so I could get to clean this one up before I got a hold of it. This was probably one of the dirtiest playfields I've ever seen. I mean, most of the wood and everything was black, and the ramps and everything you couldn't even see. And this ramp actually cleaned up fairly nicely. I think the only way I am really going to get all that haze out is probably hitting it with the torch, and we'll see if we have enough time for that later on. But right now, this ramp in particular cleaned up pretty nice. These ramps here, we just hit them with a little bit of Novus and some simple green to get most of the funk out, and pretty much came out all right. In order to really get some shine into it, I may hit it with another couple of coats of Novus. And then if I can torch it, then that should make it look about new. Most of the ball trails and everything actually came out pretty nicely. One thing about this is I was using Magic Eraser, which I try to do sparingly because it is abrasive, but I had to get it to really cut through that grime, and it actually came out really nicely. And there's some success stories floating around Pinside about Magic Eraser, but I imagine if I was going to do this on a much older playfield that had seen a lot of wear, I probably wouldn't have used it. But it's going to need it's going to need several coats of wax probably in order to really get it shining, because right now the center playfield and all that's kind of dull, and if you look towards the drains and everything like that, it's a lot glossier. So we'll see if we can get that going over the entire playfield. But for the most part, yeah, we were able to clean it and without losing any artwork, which was wonderful. So we'll hit this with a couple of layers of Novus and move on. Not going to LED it since there's a monitor mounted over top of the playfield. Brightness is definitely an issue, and while I do want to overcome the monitor at some points, you know, for dramatic effects and stuff, I'll do that more so with flashers and illuminating the rear GI, since we can control that more so than the LEDs. Even though this game probably would look great with LEDs, I've seen it and it does. Personal opinion. All right, let's see. So here we're looking at the cabinet for the Demolition Man 2000 project. This is a stock cabinet right now. No real modifications have been made other than the fact that the back box has been taken off. Well, actually, there's one major modification. We'll get to that in a second. Pretty much, the cabinet, for the most part, to be left alone. I've tried not to drill into the sides of the cabinet or anything like that, because I don't want to destroy the side art and everything. I mean, you know, I want to keep that as nice as I can, since the side art's actually in really good condition. So these handles could stand to be re-chromed. So I'm gonna have to talk to a friend of mine who actually does that and has the means to chrome these metal parts. That would be nice, actually, since the sweat and everything over time, people have rubbed that chrome off. But anyway. For the most part, we're going to leave the cabinet in stock condition, though. The big concern right now with this is power. And it's not really so much a concern as it is a convenience factor. I'd like to tap into the switched portion of this power supply here, so we can only power the PC off of the AC line whenever the switch is on. I don't want to have to put in another switch for that. I don't want to have to reach inside the coin door. You know, I want to be able to just hit the switch on the bottom of the cabinet and be done with it. And part of the reason is we've designed the operating system to accommodate sudden power offs and things like that as much as we can. So, you know, if we've put that much design consideration into it, I'd really like to finish that off just to give it an authentic look. But, you know, at the show in April, nobody will really know about that. Whenever I got this, didn't have a tilt unit in it. It actually just had there's no plumb bob on there. There's just the rod. So I got a new one on order. I just ordered the entire tilt assembly. It's, you know, $7. So gonna have that there, and rather than take one off of my other machine. Took out all of the Took out the raised board here that held the old sub on. We're going to replace that with some of the lapis, I believe that's how you say it, some of the lapis kickers and speakers there, along with the lapis amp. Thank you, Jerry, for that recommendation, actually. And the system sounds pretty good. We'll cover that actually probably in another segment. All of the actual backbox wiring here, though, is intact. This system will not use the stock backbox. So what we've done, though, is we've had to relocate the boards. Originally, the boards were located down here. Well, originally in our design, the boards were located down in the back of the playfield. The problem was we couldn't get enough clearance between the bottom of the playfield on the hinge. Whenever it pivots down, it would actually run into the board housing. So what I had to do was build another housing, and it's actually mounted at the back of the playfield, or back of the cabinet, and it's held on through support brackets, and it's upside down. So these boards have been tightened down, and actually I'm probably going to put some brackets underneath them just so vibration over time doesn't loosen the screws and the board drops. But I don't necessarily see that happening, but just to be safe. Another thing that I've done also is, or that I'm going to do, is put washers in, so the bigger slot holes still won't be able to get around the washer. My only concern is on some boards this might risk a short, since that washer is bigger. So we'll try not to do that. Let's zoom out a little bit. But yeah, it's actually held on by support brackets, so it's not going anywhere. This cabinet right here will have a closing face over it, and I'll build a top panel section for this, and what'll happen is on our back box we'll just have an arc right there to where the cables can come through, and maybe some grommet fixture right there to kind of close it in and give it as much of a professional look as we can. Trying to make this thing look as legitimate and un-homebrewy as possible, but I've only got an April deadline, so we'll see how it goes. Much rather be working on software. P-ROC board, Fliptronics board, and the main driver board and the auxiliary driver board here. This is pretty much all that we needed. Took all of the other boards out, took the DMD board out, took the sound board out, freed up a lot of space. But I did reuse the backplane assembly, or the mounting board, mainly because, well, it already has standoffs on it, and it's easy to ground to. So one thing that we had to do here was make sure that all the ground stayed intact. So we did retie the board ground back into the cabinet to make sure that everything stays, as grounded as possible, of course, so we can reference a common ground. And if we power up the system, you can see that everything is nice and grounded, everything is hunky-dory, and the board system comes on just fine. But the boards are mounted upside down, so the wiring loom stays in the same orientation as it would for the back box. A little bit easier to do that way, and we'll clean all this up after I get the playfield wiring in. But so far so good as far as that goes. The back box itself, that will house the monitor assembly, the plan originally was to rest it on the playfield, or the backbox side arms that were joined to the cabinet, those hinges, but that was proving to be a rather complex design. So one thing that we'll probably end up doing here is we've got the backbox bolt mounting points right here that are 13 and 13/16 of an inch apart, from center to center, give or take. Weird number. But basically what the plan is here is to have the back box unit that houses the monitor tied to these two mounting bolts with a strip of wood that rests gently on the channel glass without actually denting it. And the idea there is, of course, we should have enough support on the back and the sides nice and even to where the unit won't put any undue pressure on any structure of the cabinet or the head unit itself. And that'll allow us to have plenty of room in the back. The back box will be nice and tall, so we can fit the computer back there. Since we can't really mount it to the back of the cabinet, because whenever you pivot, there are some mechs at the back of the Demolition Man playfield that can potentially potentially scrape that. So that's pretty much the cabinet scenario right now. More updates as they come.